Good evening, Mr. Willis. My name is Mrs. Newton, and I'll be conducting your interview for the site safety technician position.
Yes, ma'am.
You want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, ma'am. I've been in construction for the last about 6 years. And that's pretty much it. I'm currently getting my degree for occupational health and safety. Over the course of me working as a scaffold builder, I have done a lot of things that was involved with safety, and so now I'm just trying to get into that field.
Okay. So how the interview will go, I'll ask you a series of questions. Relax, don't be nervous. Just talk freely and answer them, okay?
Okay.
All right. What is the primary purpose of conducting a risk assessment in the workplace?
So that you can know the hazards and the things that you need to correct in the field.
Okay. What is the role of a safety data sheet?
It is to look over the chemicals that the employee is dealing with, and it lets you know how to handle the chemicals as far as if anything was to spill, how you would clean it up, what is the damages, what is the how you would go about if it was spilled, or if that's it.
Okay. What agency is responsible for enforcing workplace safety standards in the United States?
OSHA.
Okay. Can you give me an example of an administrative control for workplace safety?
Yes, something would be like installing a ventilation system to make sure they have the proper ventilation in the workplace.
Okay, what is the purpose of a lockout/tagout procedure?
A lockout tagout is to make sure that the equipment is not being used while it's being repaired, or to make sure that the equipment is not being used because it is damaged.
Okay, what color is commonly used for safety signs indicating danger?
The color would be red.
Okay. What is the recommended frequency for inspecting fire extinguishers in the workplace?
You should inspect a fire extinguisher monthly.
Are you sure about that? You hesitated.
No, I'm positive it's monthly.
Okay. What type of personal protective equipment, also known as PPE, is used to protect against respiratory hazards?
You use a respirator, and the respirator would depend on the type of work you're using.
Okay. What is the purpose of conducting a safety drill in the workplace?
I'm sorry?
What is the purpose of conducting a safety drill in the workplace?
You will conduct a safety drill to ensure that the employees know how to handle a situation in the event of an emergency. So you would do a fire drill to make sure that all the employees know where the correct exits are, or to make sure that they know the right assembly points in case something happens and then everybody has to meet up.
Okay. What is the purpose of a workplace safety committee?
The purpose of a workplace committee is to ensure that I guess you could say the company is making sure that the employees are working safe, and to make sure that that there are procedures in place to make sure everything is going accordingly.
Okay. What is the primary goal of workplace safety training?
To ensure that the employees is educated and they know how to do their job properly. So if an employee doesn't have the right training, or let's just say an employee is they're doing something and they're not doing it the right way, they might need to be retrained. So it's just basically just to make sure that everyone is working safely.
Okay. Can you walk me through how you would conduct a safety audit at a new facility you've never worked in before?
If I was to do a safety audit on somewhere I've never worked, I would make sure that the facility has all the correct signs. I would look and make sure, as far as signs, I would go around and make sure that the correct signs are on all the exit doors. I would go and make sure that the proper signs we have for as far as where the fire extinguishers are located, where the first aid kits are located, and make sure they're in the proper place, and make sure that they are that the correct signs are there to make sure that they know where they're located. And then I would go and talk to the employees to make sure that they know the safety policies and procedures of the company, to ensure that they are working correctly. I would probably talk to a couple of supervisors to make sure that they know the proper procedures to how to talk to their employees in case of an accident. And then I would probably go over the safety procedures of the company to ensure that everything is in the proper and to make sure everything was in the proper places, and make sure that they have a SDS, which is the data sheet we talked about earlier, to make sure that any chemicals that we're using, to make sure we have the proper PPE. And speaking of PPE, I will make sure that we everybody has the proper PPE for whatever job they're conducting, as far as safety glasses, gloves, maybe vests or FRCs, just depending on their work.
Okay. How would you rate yourself as being a team member, a team player?
I would probably give myself maybe an 8.
8. Okay.
Yes, because well, you have to leave room for improvement, because everybody can always learn something new. So I'm hoping, if I am in this position, that the guys can learn from me, or the crew can learn from me, and I can also learn some things from them.
Okay. How would you handle one of your coworkers, teammates, not handling his end of his workload, and he's putting more of his workload on you? How would you handle that?
I would probably pull them to the side and have a one-on-one talk with them, and make sure, do they have anything personal going on? Maybe, we're all human, so maybe they might not be in the right mindset. They might, have something going on to where they can't take the workload. So I would just probably, just talk to them and see if there's anything that I could do to help them to be able to get their job done. Maybe they don't know exactly what's going on. So maybe they may need a little help as far as direction and how to go about doing the job. So I think communication is key when it comes to employees working together. So, any way that I can help them be a better team player, it helps the company be a better company.
Okay. And what makes you feel like you are a good fit for this position?
Well, I guess I could say my work experience, and I am very reliable. I do not miss days at work. I take my job very seriously, and my job is basically to make sure that the company is safe and the employees are safe, because the main thing is making sure we get the job done correctly, in a safely manner, and on time. The last thing we want is an incident, and that will affect the company or an employee being able to go home to their family.
Okay. One last question for you, Mr. Willis. How would you handle conflict in the workplace?
As far as with me or any employee?
You can give me both. If it was with you, or if it was something that you were observing and it was kind of affecting the overall team, or it might be an employee bringing some conflict to you. How would you handle that?
Again, I would. I think communication is very vital. I would sit down. I would probably talk to the individuals. If it was 2 individuals, I would sit down to them and talk to both of them individually, and find out what the problem is, and see if there's anything that I could do to help the problem. And pretty much just, hey, what's going on? What can I do to help? And if it's nothing that I can do to help, I would probably just pass it off to upper management. Like, hey, look, we're having a problem with these guys, and we should probably, have a meeting to sit down and talk so that nothing bad happens. As far as me, if I was to get into it, I guess a verbal dispute with an employee, again, I would pretty much just talk to him and, just let him know, like, hey, this is not the time for us to, like, pretty much, have a dispute. Hey, we can work it out, we can talk it out, and, it's not about being right. It's about pretty much getting the job done. So, hey, we need to get this done. We might not see eye to eye on it. So let's sit down and figure out what we can do so that we can make sure that the job is getting done properly. Because at the end of the day, if we're getting into it, then the company is not making money, and we at risk of losing our jobs. So the most important thing is just making sure that everybody is in communication with each other and making sure that we all can do our jobs the right way and together.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
Did I get the job? But no, that's pretty much it. I guess no, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, we are still in this interviewing process for this position, so we'll definitely get back with you, but I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, thank you so much.